The voice echoing inside your head right now is not you. It is a fear-driven hallucination, a biological parasite you have tragically mistaken for your soul. You are bleeding for a self that doesn't exist. Uncover who is actually listening or remain a prisoner forever. Right at this exact second, who is actually sitting inside your head. Pause for a fraction of a heartbeat and look incredibly deep inward. Right now, as you absorb these words, a voice is echoing in the dark cavern of your mind. It might be whispering, "What is this video even about?" Or, "I have way too much to do, should I really keep watching?" Or perhaps it is just casting a fleeting, pointless judgment on the tone of the voice you are hearing. That voice is a relentless hum, a ceaseless murmur that never sleeps, never yields, and never grants you peace. For your entire life, you have blindly believed that this restless voice is you. But let me ask you a question that might just shatter your reality forever. If you can hear that voice speaking, then who exactly is the one listening? Myth Eryndor warmly welcomes you to this sanctuary of the mind. If you are ready to dismantle the illusions holding you captive and uncover the raw truth of your existence, I urge you to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support is the vital heartbeat that fuels our motivation to continue crafting these deep explorations of the soul. Now hold on to that piercing question, because for centuries humanity has been the victim of a colossal deception, the most elaborate scam orchestrated by the relentless process of evolution itself, the illusion of a physical, independent self locked securely inside the skull. We desperately cling to the comforting fantasy that somewhere right behind our eyes there sits a miniature CEO, a commanding entity stationed at a complex control board, pulling the strings of every action, drafting every decision, and molding every agonizing emotion we feel. I know this intimately because I have been there, lying awake at 3 in the morning, paralyzed by vicious storms of endless thoughts, begging that phantom commander to just turn off the machine so I could finally rest. But modern neuroscience has delivered a terrifyingly beautiful and shocking truth. When scientists slide living, breathing, loving, and grieving human beings into functional MRI machines, scanning every fragile, glowing layer of brain activity, they find absolutely nothing resembling a command center. When they dissect the physical architecture of the brain, they find only a sprawling dark forest of 86 billion neurons communicating in silent, chaotic bursts of electricity and chemicals. There is no nucleus labeled you. There is no master control room. There is no CEO. The brain is entirely a decentralized system, a web of countless regions firing in parallel, automatically triggering and weaving together to project the holographic illusion we call human experience. So if there is no physical center, why does our suffering feel so impossibly real? Why do we bleed emotionally, toss and turn in endless agony, and slowly drown in the modern plague of overthinking that is mercilessly eroding our entire generation? The root of all our torment stems from a fatal, tragic case of mistaken identity. We have taken an automatic, fear-driven machine designed solely to produce thoughts and mistakenly crowned it as our true essence. We have confused the loud, relentless inner commentator with the vast, silent observer. As long as this deadly confusion reigns supreme, you will remain a helpless prisoner in a jail built entirely by your own mind. The journey we are embarking on for the next 18 minutes will not be a mere psychological breakdown. It will be a meticulously planned prison break. It is the ultimate liberation of your consciousness, guiding you past the deafening noise and into a realm of absolute, untouched stillness where the true, breathtaking freedom you have been starving for finally awaits. To execute a successful prison break, we must first deeply understand the invisible walls of the cell that holds us captive. The walls of this prison are not made of stone or steel. They are constructed entirely from memories of a past that no longer exists and terrifying hallucinations of a future that has not yet arrived. The inner commentator, that voice you have mistakenly identified as yourself, is a compulsive time traveler. It is utterly terrified of the present moment. Think about the last time you took a hot shower, drove your car down a familiar stretch of road, or lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Were you actually there? Or was your mind miles away, violently arguing with a coworker in a hypothetical scenario that will never happen, or replaying a minor embarrassment from 5 years ago until your chest tightened with shame? I have spent years of my life physically present but mentally absent, wandering like a ghost through my own existence. We look at the faces of our loved ones, but we do not truly see them. We see our judgments, our fears, and our expectations projected over them like a dirty film. This is the exhaustion that is draining our generation. We are not tired from physical labor. We are utterly depleted from the endless, suffocating simulation running constantly behind our eyes. The ego, this constructed sense of self, builds its identity by creating problems. It needs conflict to survive. If you are entirely at peace, completely anchored in the raw sensation of the present second, the inner commentator has nothing to talk about. It faces its own non-existence, and to the ego, silence is death. So it generates noise. It convinces you that you are a separate, isolated fragment thrown into a hostile universe, constantly whispering that you are not enough, that you must achieve more, buy more, and defend your fragile image at all costs. It forces you to wear exhausting masks, desperately trying to manipulate how other people perceive the holographic you. But the deepest tragedy is that we believe the narrative. We suffer profoundly because we fuse with our thoughts. When the mind says, "I am a failure," we do not observe it as a mere passing string of words. We swallow it as absolute, undeniable truth. We have forgotten that a thought is just a biochemical event, a harmless spark in the dark forest of the brain. Until we recognize the mechanics of this self-imposed captivity, we will continue to run on the hamster wheel of our own anxieties, chasing a mirage of future happiness, while the only real thing we have, the present moment, slips silently through our fingers. Yet this exhausting, relentless mental torment was never designed by nature to be a torture device. It was forged in the brutal, unforgiving fires of our ancient survival. To forgive ourselves for the chaos in our heads, we must understand the terrifying landscape our ancestors navigated tens of thousands of years ago. Mother Nature did not engineer the human brain to make us happy, peaceful, or spiritually enlightened. She engineered it for one singular, ruthless purpose: to keep us alive long enough to pass on our genes. Imagine two early humans foraging in the prehistoric savanna. The first is optimistic, peaceful, and fully living in the moment, assuming the rustling in the bushes is just the wind. The second is paranoid, anxious, and constantly projecting the worst-case scenario, assuming the rustling is a starving predator. The optimistic human gets eaten. The paranoid human survives, reproduces, and passes on those anxious, hypervigilant genes to us. We are the direct descendants of the most nervous, fearful apes that ever walked the earth. We inherited a biological survival machine equipped with a powerful negativity bias, constantly scanning the horizon for threats, failures, and social rejection. For a long time, I beat myself up for my anxiety, wondering why my default state was worry. I felt broken, but looking at it through the lens of evolutionary biology changed everything. I was not broken. My brain was simply doing exactly what it was programmed to do. It was successfully running ancient survival software. The catastrophic problem is that the world has drastically changed but our biological hardware remains exactly the same. We no longer face saber-toothed tigers or the threat of winter starvation. Instead, our primitive brains project that same life-or-death terror onto unread emails, awkward social interactions, dropping follower counts, and the crushing societal pressure to succeed. The brain does not know the difference between a physical threat to our lives and a psychological threat to our ego. When someone criticizes you, your heart pounds, your palms sweat, and your fight or flight response activates exactly as if you were being hunted. We are trapped in a modern society navigating invisible conceptual threats with the biological alarms of a hunted animal. The voice in your head is just the echo of an ancient alarm system desperately trying to protect a physical body in a world that no longer requires such primitive defense. Realizing this is the ultimate paradigm shift. It strips the inner commentator of its mystical authority and reveals it for what it truly is, a well-intentioned but tragically confused biological mechanism. Recognizing that you are operating a biological machine running on outdated fear-driven software is the precise moment the heavy iron doors of your mental cell finally begin to unlock. This brings us to the profound turning point of our journey, the painful yet infinitely beautiful separation of the self from the mind. If you are not the voice whispering in the dark, then who are you? I remember the exact evening this truth hit me. I was sitting on my balcony, watching a storm roll in, while a massive storm of anxiety raged in my own chest. A cruel thought surfaced, telling me my life was heading toward a dead end. Normally, I would have dove headfirst into that thought, letting it drag me down to the bottom of an emotional ocean. But this time, utterly exhausted, I did something radical. I did absolutely nothing. I just watched the thought. I stared at it as if it were a strange insect crawling across the floor. I felt the physical sensation of dread in my stomach, but I did not judge it. I just observed. And in that terrifying, magical fraction of a second, a vast, silent space opened up. There was the toxic thought over there, and there was me over here watching it. For the first time in my life, I experienced the observer. You are not the storm. You are the vast, untouchable sky in which the storm rages. Clouds of depression, lightning bolts of anger, and fogs of confusion will inevitably pass through, but they can never fundamentally alter the sky. This realization is the art of detachment. It does not mean you become a cold, emotionless robot. On the contrary, it allows you to feel the full, raw spectrum of human emotion without being destroyed by it. When sadness comes, you do not fight it or label it as bad. You welcome it, you let it wash through your nervous system, and you let it leave. Suffering only occurs when we violently resist what is happening in the present moment. By stepping back into the seat of the silent observer, you strip the inner commentator of its fuel. You stop arguing with the voice. You treat it like a radio playing in the background of a busy restaurant. You can hear the music, but you are no longer forced to dance to it. This space between a thought arising and your reaction to it is where your entire power resides. It is the sacred void where true unbreakable peace is born. Stepping into that vast silent sky is not the end of our journey, but rather the breathtaking beginning of the ultimate rebellion. To live as the observer in a modern society that constantly demands your neurotic participation is the most radical act of defiance you can commit. Every single day, billions of dollars are spent by corporations, media conglomerates, and algorithms to hijack your attention, trigger your insecurities, and keep your inner commentator in a state of perpetual panic. They profit immensely from your anxiety, your feeling of lack, and your desperate search for external validation. A calm, grounded human being who knows they are already complete is a terrible consumer. Therefore, reclaiming your consciousness is not merely a self-help exercise. It is a profound reclamation of your humanity. When you finally stop identifying with the endless stream of thoughts, a miraculous transformation occurs in your external life. The heavy, exhausting armor you have worn for decades begins to fall away. Your relationships deepen because you are finally able to listen to others without silently formulating your own response. Your creativity explodes because you are no longer paralyzed by the fear of judgment. You begin to experience the miraculous beauty of the mundane, the warmth of coffee in your hands, the intricate pattern of shadows on the wall, the simple rhythmic miracle of your own breath. You realize that you never needed to find yourself in the future. The magnificent presence you were searching for was always here, waiting patiently underneath the noise. This is the raw truth of your existence. The greatest deception of the human mind was making you believe you were the prisoner, when in reality you have always been the sky holding the prison. You hold the key. The next time the relentless hum of your mind tries to pull you into the abyss of overthinking, I challenge you to pause. Take one deep, conscious breath. Look at the thought, smile at its desperate attempt to capture you, and quietly step back into the silence. The journey from the noise of the mind to the stillness of the soul is the most important expedition you will ever undertake. Thank you for walking this path of awakening with me today. Keep observing, keep questioning, and above all, never let the illusion of the mind obscure the boundless, brilliant truth of who you really are. Summary. The human experience is often defined by an invisible prison constructed not of physical walls but of our own relentless thoughts. We are routinely held captive by the inner commentator, an anxious voice that drags us into the unchangeable past and the terrifying hypothetical future, stripping us of the only true reality, the present moment. This mental torment, however, is not a personal failure, but an evolutionary inheritance. Our prehistoric ancestors survived by developing a negativity bias, a hyper-vigilant alarm system that kept them safe from physical predators. Today, that ancient survival software misfires, projecting life or death terror onto modern conceptual stressors like societal expectations and daily responsibilities. The ultimate liberation begins with realizing that we are not this anxious biological machine. We are the silent observer watching it. By creating distance between our true self and our transient thoughts, we step into a vast, untouchable sky where emotions pass like temporary storms without destroying us. Embracing this detachment is an act of radical rebellion in a modern world engineered to profit from our insecurities and fractured attention. When we stop identifying with the endless stream of mental noise, we reclaim our humanity, unlock our deeper relationships, and discover that the profound peace we desperately sought was always waiting quietly beneath the chaos of the present moment. Profound lesson learned. You are not the storm of your thoughts. You are the vast, untouchable sky in which the storm rages. Your mind's anxiety is not a reflection of your worth or an absolute truth about your reality. It is merely an outdated evolutionary alarm system trying to protect you. True suffering arises only when we mistakenly fuse with our thoughts and accept them as our core identity. How to apply it to current life. The next time you feel overwhelmed by a wave of anxiety, self-doubt, or frustration, do not fight the feeling or let it drag you into a spiral of overthinking. Instead, practice the art of detachment. Pause. Take a deep, conscious breath and mentally step back to observe the thought as if it were a strange insect crawling across the floor. Do not judge it. Treat the voice in your head like a radio playing in the background of a busy room. You can hear the noise, but you do not have to let it control your actions. Anchor yourself in the raw physical sensations of the present second, whether it is the rhythm of your breath or the feeling of your feet on the ground. By doing this, you starve the anxious ego of its fuel and instantly reclaim your peace. Question for you. What is one simple everyday activity that helps you quiet your mind and stay fully in the present moment? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comment section below, so we can all read and learn from each other's perspectives. Also, if you found value in this message, please subscribe to the channel to support us. It gives us the motivation to keep creating more meaningful content for you.